Hi and welcome back to Lincolnshire Fenn Crafts. It's November, bonfire night is behind us, so it's time to get a little bit seasonal with these darling little Nordic gnomes, one of my favourite things to make, and I make them throughout the year as well. So it's a really easy tutorial, great for beginners, great just for fun, brilliant gifts, brilliant for seasonal decor. You can do, there's so many variations, and I think we're going to go with something quite traditional today, something same colour as this gnome that we have here, with this gorgeous grey and white beard. So we'll get straight down to it. So move these out of the way. So you don't need a lot. We're going to start with white wool top, or roving as you sometimes can hear it called, for the body, and that's where we're going to start. So under here you've got the actual base of the gnome, and that's where everything is built around. It needs to be quite firm, that, because it's the scaffolding for the rest of the structure. So we're going to start with this body. I've got here about, I don't know, 15 grams of I think this is white Jacob wool top, and the reason I like using Jacob is because it's a really nice coarse wool. You can also use carded wool, which is just as good, but if you are using a wool top, make sure you use a nice coarse wool top, nothing too fine, and Jacob is absolutely perfect. Shetland's another one that's really good. So quite simply, we're going to start and we're going to make a cylinder shape. I have here just a standard 38 needle size, and that's all we're going to be using. I'll show you a couple of other things as we go along. A mat for resting our work on. I've also got some foam here just to show you how they both work in different ways. And let's get to it. So what you want to do is get hold of the end of the wool top that you've got there and push it into the mat. Can you see what I'm doing there? Really push it in, because what you want to do is create a nice firm cylinder and start to roll. And whilst you're doing that, bring in those edges, those sides, those loose sides, so keep those nice and firm. And we're not even going to use the needle yet. We're just going to keep rolling until it starts to get a little bit bigger, and that shape, as you can see, is starting to develop. And then we'll hold it there, we'll take our needle, and these have got the little barbs on, which are going to tangle all those wool fibres together, and we're just going to poke for not too long. Just watch your finger, keep your fingers well out of the way because it's very sharp. Don't forget to tuck in those ends with your needle. Don't bend the needle because it will break, it's quite fragile, but as long as you keep it, and then you can actually turn it round and then just tuck in those ends. Use your needle just to pull in those little areas and turn it back round again, and then continue to roll. And can you see how that's starting to build up now? Get it there, and it's really, what you want to do is make sure this is firm. If you've got to this point and it's quite loose, unravel it and start again, because you're going to save yourself a lot of time. You can use more than one needle for this. There are lots of things you can use. I've got one here that's got 2 in it. Actually takes 3 needles, but I've just got it working on 2 if you want to speed up the process. But to be honest, one's perfectly fine. If you actually do want to use 2 and you haven't got a gadget, then what you can actually do is actually have 2 needles together, hold them together and just felt that way. But that, for this part of the gnome, it doesn't really matter, you don't need it. When you come to doing the hat, it does speed things up. So let's just keep this going. And what we want to do is try and make a nice flat area at the bottom so that it stands up nice and straight. And keep going. See what I'm doing? Just felting all the way around. And what you'll end up doing is you'll probably naturally have a narrower end, but just focus on firming up one end, because that's going to be where it's going to sit. And then keep rolling that up. I've used all of this, but you can make them half this size if you want. And just roll that excess. And remember, this is going to be hidden. You're not going to actually see any of this, so don't be precious about getting it nice and even. Don't worry about a few lumps and bumps and needle marks. It's quite a coarse wool, so you don't really see a lot of needle marks in this. If you were using merino, you would see a lot of needle marks, and it would actually take a bit longer to felt as well. This is why I like using the coarser wools. But with the colours, when you've got the hats, that's actually a merino with white silk, so it comes in really useful for embellishments, colours, blending, top coats. Okay, so we've got a basic shape there for our gnome. And what I've been working on here is this flat bottom, so that actually will stand up on its own. So what we just want to do now is we want to tidy this top area here. So just with your needle, go straight down the side of the body, not in this way. What you want to do is you just want to draw that wool down the sides just to create a slight angle. There we go, nothing too fancy, and that is the body done. So we're going to pop that to one side, and now we are going to make the hat. Now I'm going to go with a traditional colour here. You can use this, again this is wool top, or roving as you might call it, so it's just all nice, brushed and nice and neat in the same direction, but this is a Shetland wool top, so again it's a nice coarse wool. I wouldn't use, you know, if you're just starting, I would just go with the nice coarse wools, or you could also use carded wool, which again is the same thing but just processed differently, brushed in different directions, so you've got shorter fibres. Again, that would work really well for the hat. But I'm going to show you, because most people have got wool top, I'm going to show you how to do the hat with this. You can work with or without a template for this. I have a little triangular template here. This is from top to bottom, that's 12 centimetres, and from side to side the width at the widest point is 10 centimetres, and I've just left a little curve on the bottom. I'm not sure if that actually makes any difference, but I feel like it does, so that's why I do it. So we're going to use that, but what we're going to do is we're just going to separate our wool, and we're going to spread it. In fact, I'm going to turn this mat around just because it's longer. I'm going to spread it this way, and this can also be done on your foam. I will show you that as well. So you lay that out. In fact, I'll go straight onto the foam because a lot of people don't have the rice mats, so we'll work on the foam. There we go. So onto your foam. Don't worry about any gaps, as they're not really going to be visible once you get the hat wrapped around the body, which is what we're going to do. Just hoping I haven't made my body too big, but we shall see. I maybe should have made the hat first, but we shall see. And then just lay your template, and you want the wool to be longer than your template because we're going to fold over those edges to create some really nice neat finishes. So you lay your template on. Might just pop a little bit more wool in there just to fill that out a little bit. So it definitely wants to be bigger than your template because you want to pull in those sides as you work. But the first thing we're going to do is draw with our needle just roughly around the edge of the template. So we're just drawing very roughly creating that template size on the wool. As you can see, you've got a nice visible area that you can now work from. So just run along again with your needle, just defining those lines a little bit more. And this just makes it so easy to create the gnome's hat. So then all we're going to do is we're going to pull in the wool to where you can feel that line is actually sitting in that foam, and you're just going to gently push the needle in and out a few times, and then you're going to do the same again on the other side. You see here you've got this line, pull that in to that line, leave this, don't worry about that, we're going to use that to create the nice point later on. And then at the bottom here, where you've got these strands, pull those over, and can you see how it's created that nice neat edge, which is just what we want. And you can see almost straight away how that shape is coming together. And then just continue to felt. And then peel it off gently, but don't worry about the shape distorting. And you can see now it's actually starting to hold its shape. And then continue to felt again. Now at this point, this may be the point where you want to change to a different tool. Sorry. And this is the two needles. Hold the foam down. You don't really need to hold the wool now. And felt around. Or if you haven't got the tool but you've got two needles, then hold two needles together. And then if you want to really bring on the big guns, then what you can actually use, and I'm going to use this just because obviously it'll speed the video up. This is a 7 needle punch tool, and that comes up and down from the guard. And it really speeds this process up, and you just go along the felting mat just gently. You don't want to be poking all the way through, you're just going through the top layer. And can you see how quickly, and you can use that as well, you can use that to bring in those ends, and then you can actually start to work down there. If you haven't got this, doesn't matter, just in my workshops we just use the foam pads and a needle, it doesn't matter. If you have got one, it really does speed up the process quite considerably. If you have got one of these rice mats, what I would suggest you do is use a little bit of flat felt to protect it. It will make it last longer. Flat felt, some cotton, just the Hobbycraft felt sheets are fine as well. It doesn't even have to be pure wool sheets. But make sure you don't over felt before you turn, because it makes it quite tricky to remove it. And don't worry about any lines. So can you see now how that's actually really starting to take shape? So now we have a gnome body, and we almost have a hat. And because we folded over those edges, do you see how it's nice and neat there? So when we actually wrap it round, it's going to look really smart, not raggy. And then what you want to do is lay your body on top of that and just make sure you can wrap the hat around. Now mine just about goes round. My body's a little bit big. I could actually take some wool off that body, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently, because this wool hasn't been over felted yet, it's very pliable wool, it's great, and use your hands are brilliant tools. So pull that wool out, so I'm just stretching it slightly just to make it a little bit wider along the bottom there. And then, yeah, that's going to be great. Just going to pull that a little bit more at the sides here. So don't be frightened to do this. You can, and if you've got any really thin areas where you can actually see light coming through, you can actually just lay a little bit of wool on and felt over that. Trick with felting is you can always add more, but it's much more difficult to take it away. And there we go. Lovely little gnome hat ready to be folded over. So now we're going to fold that over. You see, we've got a seam there, and this seam will go at the back. And then what you want to do, we'll go back to our foam pad, because that may be what most of you are working on. Lay it along the seam. Make sure these meet at the bottom, and just along the very edge of that seam, felt with your needle so that the seam underneath becomes tangled with the seam on the top, and work all the way up. You can actually bring it over from one side as well. Okay. Turn it over and do the same again. And then what you will see is you've now created a gnome hat. How amazing is that? That will actually stand up. Whoop whoop. No time at all. And then just go along those seams a little bit more. Now you can leave that quite wispy if you want, or what you can actually do is just fold over that end, felt it in a little bit, and then what I do really, really fast to get a really nice point on it is just put it in the palm of your hands and roll it, and that friction and heat from your hands felts it together really nicely. Look at that, look how neat that is. And you can use your fingers just to twizzle the ends. And again, you can come as far down the hat as you want, but I'm just going to stay quite near the top because I don't want to lose that shape. And then you can just pull it out gently. And then we've got a seam at the back there, just got a little bit loose there. So what I'll do is I'll just go along here, down to the bottom, just make sure that's nice. And if the ends are untidy, you can just turn it and go along and just pull in any raggy bits, any loose bits with your needle, keeping it open because you don't want to flatten it and seal it. And there we go. So that's going to be the front of our hat. I'm just going to narrow this base a little bit here, just here where it's going to sit. Let me see. So again, if your hat is a little small, you can just reduce the size of the gnome body by just going back and just felting down the sides, turning as you go to keep that nice and neat. Okay. Again, it's not neat, there's lots of loose wool, there's a few lines, but it doesn't matter. I'm not really bothered about that because we're just not going to see it, so it doesn't matter. And then, as you can see, oh, yes, hat pops on. So start from the back and push through with your needle into the body, and what will happen is you'll grab some of those fibres from the gnome hat and they will tangle with the fibres in the body, and work more at the back than the front, because I don't really want to distort the front too much. There we go. So you can see how that's looking quite smart. Just straighten it out a bit. Use your hands. And then if you want just to do a few on the front, but just go through from further up the hat so you're not actually distorting this brim, because you want that brim to have a nice soft edge and not be squashed in, but you want it to hold. Remember, it's not a toy, so it shouldn't be handled. So it doesn't need to be overly felted. There we go. And now we are ready for the nose. Now I've just got some fleshy wool here. And you really don't need much, just a little bit. Yeah. And all we're going to do, we're just going to roll that nose up, again like you did the body, but it's just a much smaller way of doing it. And you see the shape I've got there? Quite rough. And then take your needle and just give it a few stabs with the needle until it starts to hold and felt. And we're gonna tweak this shape when we put it on, so don't over felt it. You want it to be quite soft. And that's it. That's all you need to do. Okay, can you see that? Then decide where the front of your gnome is going to be and pop the nose directly under the brim of the hat, almost pushing into the hat. Hold with your finger and then just push in from the sides and felt that nose on. Don't go through the front of the nose because you don't want to squash it. You want to keep that nice shape. And what you're doing, you're getting that nose to kind of curve as you're felting it in. Can you see how great that looks? Already, so you've got that really nice shape. And don't overdo it, that's enough. You know, just tuck in any edges there, that's enough. And then final touch, it's the most important bit really, it's his fabulous beard. So I've got here, this is very light grey Swaledale. You could go with a matching colour, you could go with a contrasting colour, you could go with a darker grey which looks really nice, like we've got on this one, with his little moustache. Again, that's Grey Jacob, lovely wool. So separate a length of wool, pull some of that off, and lay it on your mat, fold it over, and then just gently along the fold use that needle to just secure it a little bit, just so that when we put it on it's a little bit easier to manage. Lay it on the gnome, right under the nose, and we're going to start under the nose, and we just use our needle to push that gorgeous beard under the nose so it's secure. And we're hardly going to felt this at all, we're just tacking it on, and can you see how you've created that lovely shape? And then just work your way round, keep pushing and felting into the body, but push that needle under the hat so there's no visible start and finish. Come round to the other side. Just use your needle just to push it under. There we go, that looks great. Just tidy that nose up for it there. And just secure the hat at the front, make sure you're happy with the shape, maybe push that hat in a little bit more with your needle into the body just so it's secured at the front and around that nose. And there we have it, that's it. 25 minutes and you have a gnome. And if you've got little needle marks that you can see here, just rub your finger along them and you'll get them out. Don't be too precious over it, just give them a little rub with your nail and they soon disappear. Use your fingers, use your hands are brilliant tools. And there we have it. One Nordic gnome. Okay, hope you enjoy making yours. Thanks very much.